It is indeed an honor and a privilege to welcome our new United States Senator Marco Rubio to this morning's program in the vain hope that he may be able to reinstill some sense of decorum to this morning's proceedings. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me back on.
Look, we've been talking, and I've linked to your town hall column about the balanced budget amendment on my blog. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I can't wrap my mind around the concept of $1 trillion in the first place. Marco, for those of my listening audience who didn't hear your speech the other day at Bay Point, how bad is the problem, and what are we going to have to do something about it?
Well, I mean, the problem is, I think that's important to explain that debt, the government's always going to have some level of debt, just like people who buy a house and a mortgage, you have debt.
Right.
The issue is not, the question is how much. Just like your mortgage can't be more than what you make, your mortgage payment can't be more than what you make, our debt can't be bigger than our economy's ability to sustain it.
Right.
And that's the problem we're facing, is that our debt is beginning to reach levels that are too high a percentage of our overall economy.
Right.
So what we have to do is two things. We have to bring the debt down, number one, and we have to grow the economy, and we have to try to do both at the same time, and that's what the debate is about. This administration believes that the way you grow the economy is by letting the government spend more money. What they want to do is, let's continue to deficit spend for a little while longer. That'll help grow the economy. And then when the economy gets growing, then we can talk about reductions and stuff like that. I'm saying that that's not going to happen. In fact, the economy is not going to grow as long as the debt is growing at this level for a lot of reasons. Number one, people are afraid to invest money in America because they think that this higher debt is going to mean higher taxes. Number two, every time the government goes out and sells debt, it sucks up money. There's only so much money in the world, and people have to decide where to invest that money, and every penny that goes into a government treasury is a penny that's not available for private sector investment. So that's a problem. Yep. And then, of course, you add to that, there are other issues why our economy is not growing fast enough, and it's regulations that are out of control, and
sure, a
health care bill that scares job creators, a tax code that's complicated and unpredictable. So you put all this together, and it's a recipe for disaster, and that's what we're facing.
Yeah, we are, and I have to address something that you just said. Apparently, this administration thinks that the way you grow the economy is just to spend more money. I'm wondering if they think that, or on the other hand, I'm reminded of something that you said in your speech the other day. Some of our leaders apparently think that the decline of this country is inevitable, and it's just their job to manage the decline. I'm not so sure they're really interested in growing this economy.
Well, there's no doubt that there are those who believe that, whether they'll admit it or not. Their policies betray that. I mean, look what's happening now in foreign policy. Look around the world and how America, what would America have done 15 or 20 years ago? We would have been deeply involved in trying to, figure out what the right thing to do is. A great America, an exceptional America, is a country that have been trying to do the right thing with regards to Libya. This president and this administration has decided that what we need to do is try to figure out how we can convince these other countries to come along. Well, that's just not going to happen. I mean, we have to lead. There is a responsibility that comes with being the United States of America and an exceptional country, and we have to embrace that. So, look, I always take people's motives at face value, but my perception is that the policies of this administration and many in this Congress is the policies of people who believe that America is destined to become just like all these other countries, to decline, and their job is to manage that. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think that the greatest days of American history are really ahead of us if we want them to be, but we have to want them to be, and then we have to go out and make it happen.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you something. When you think about trying to balance the budget, because I know that you have co-sponsored a couple of amendments to do that, when you think about trying to rein in federal spending, some of us look at some of the agencies and even departments in the federal government, and we're asking the question, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask, where in the Constitution does the federal government even have the authority to even think about getting into some of these areas? Why don't we, if we could just cut some of these programs and agencies and departments out that there's no constitutional authority for?
Well, there's no doubt, again, that the Constitution is a document of limitation. It's not a document of empowerment. It's a document that basically limits the powers of government. What it basically says is if it's not in the Constitution, the government doesn't have the power to do it.
Right.
That doesn't mean that well-intentioned people over the years haven't expanded the role of federal government because they see a great cause and they want to address it. But there's unintended consequences to that, and one of those consequences is spending. And so, the balanced budget amendment, I'm for it. That's what I run an article about. It's important to be intellectually honest and tell people it's not enough. The balanced budget amendment will keep the debt from getting worse. But it does not address the money we already owe. And to do that, we've got to address The thing I'm most worried about is that Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security are going to go bankrupt. And I want to save those programs. I actually believe that those programs are important and want to save them. Yeah. But I know that if we do nothing, not only will those programs not be saved, but they'll bankrupt our country. And so, again, as I've said repeatedly, I don't think we need to make any changes for people over the age of 55. But for younger workers, people like me, I turned 40 this year. I'm decades away from retirement.
Sure.
If I want there to be Social Security and Medicare when I retire, when my kids retire, I better start, working on some solutions for it right now while we still have time, and that's what I hope to focus on here over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. Now, Marco, let me ask you about the whole BP oil spill or oil explosion situation. President Obama announced that he was going to put an outside independent third party in charge of investigating the whole deal, and then he puts this Ken Feinberg, who's already his pay czar, on BP's payroll, and a judge here a few weeks ago said, Feinberg, you got to stop lying and saying you're independent because BP's paying you. Did Obama have any business putting the federal government into the middle of that process, or should we have just let the lawyers handle it?
Well, I think that there is a role for the federal government to play in investigating what happens in federal waters, especially an accident of this magnitude, especially because of the billions of dollars that were spent trying to clean it up.
Okay.
I think it has to be a process that's transparent. We have to know who's involved and whose agenda they're pursuing. And like anything else, I think we're going to find at the end of the day is three things. Number one, and I think this is pretty documented already, we're going to find that BP, acted pretty aggressively and actually disregarded the advice that they were getting from a number of people in regards to what to do, and it led to this horrible accident. I think the second thing we're going to find out is that it's preventable, that these things don't have to happen again in the future. And the third thing we're going to find out is that the vast majority of drilling operations out there aren't doing it this way, and that's why we don't have these accidents and haven't had any before or since. What I think it's important for us, and we have to always be cautious about, is we cannot allow our energy debate to be tangled into that of a bad actor, or somebody who did something that was wrong.
Yeah.
We can't let the two things intermingle. All you need to look at the fact that gasoline is now close to, $105 a barrel and climbing, and that's going to have impacts on everything from airline travel to how much it costs to buy food at the grocery store. America needs to achieve energy independence as soon as possible, and I think in the short term that means having all of our energy resources at our disposal in a safe way. We never want to see what happened happen again.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. And maybe we can do something about this ethanol, which is making the gas worse for it's goofing up cars and it's driving up food prices.
Well, look, ultimately we're always for energy diversity and energy independence
Sure.
and all different kinds of innovations, but they have to make sense economically. And I think the American innovator, the American inventor is going to go out and invent not just higher efficiency vehicles and higher efficiency uses of energy, but new sources of energy given time. But in the interim, the reality of it is that we're going to have all of our energy resources at our disposal. That includes natural gas, and that includes petroleum products.
Absolutely. Real quick, because I know you gotta run. Obamacare. Where do we stand on that? I guess the administration's got just a couple of more days to appeal the judge's ruling, right?
Yeah, we're all watching carefully the constitutional route in the courts and see how that goes, and obviously curious to see how that turns out. I believe it's unconstitutional, but I'm opposed to it on other grounds too. I'm opposed to it on the fact that I think it's a massive job-killing endeavor. I mean, the rules that are being written and have yet to be written about this health care bill is scaring the job creators, and they're not creating jobs because of it. And that, among other reasons, is why I'm against the bill. I voted already. I said in the campaign I would. I got up here. One of the first votes I took was to repeal the bill, and I think now we're looking for opportunities to repeal parts of it as well.
Amen, brother. All right, I appreciate it. Marco Rubio, as we say here in Northwest Florida, y'all come see us.
We will. We were up there not so long ago. We'll be back again soon.
All right, God bless you. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Have a great day.